Perceive what the right touch is. Watch now, watch. The Bible says, if you don't mind, now I'm looking one more time. I want you to grab verses number. Look at verses number 27. The Bible says, when she heard. Are you there now? When she what? When she heard. See, the literal meaning here is that when Jesus says she heard this thing concerning Jesus, then she began to come to Jesus when she heard. Now notice now, it's got to start with you hearing something about Jesus. Now number one, you've heard the word. A lot of us have been reading the Bible for a long time. And still, we still got 12 issues of problems. She's been having these issues of blood for 12 years. Some of us are still having issues for 12 years. Issues, we've been bleeding for 12 years. Sadness, we've been bleeding for 12 years. Well, it's 12 years of flux, man. 12 years. That's too long. When you can actually, you've been living wrong for 12 years. You've been unhappy for 12 years. You've been doing a lot of things for 12 years. You've been arguing and getting angry for 12 years. You've been walking around without a job for 12 years. Look here, folks, how long does it take a person to do something with your life? Now, I'm not talking about anybody here. I'm just saying personally that God don't let certain people stay certain way. It's mental. God is testing your mental touch. In church work, in church doing, people sometimes sit in churches, and we hear teaching often. We hear people teaching Sunday school, and folks, we still don't get it at times. You know, teaching becomes reality when you learn to convince yourself. You can't convince nobody in this room but you. And when you leave this audience, that's the real you. That's the real. This is not true because we can put on all kinds of facades in this place at church. But the real person, the real people is when you leave here. And when you're by yourself, what can you do when you're by yourself? Do you have to believe in a Jesus that Jesus can get you through your thing? This young girl here, remember now, she is a clear example of the right touch because nobody else around, she finds herself coming to Jesus. You don't need friends when you got friends in Jesus. You don't need them. And we look for people to pump us. We look for people to prop up on. We look for people to lean on. Well, I don't need to lean on nobody in this church building. Not when I know the word. Not when I know Jesus. Not when I know the doctrine. Not when I know who owns the bank. Not when I know who owns everything. I don't need to prop myself up on you. I am standing a devil by myself. Because she was born with a problem. Yeah, she found out that by herself she can have the right touch. But notice what she does in verse number 27. Stay there now, y'all doing good, man. But what the Bible says here that she did what? The Bible says when she heard about Jesus, she came into the press behind him. When she heard about him, she came into the press. Notice now, when she heard about him, she came into the press behind him. I want you to understand the word. Every word is important. When she heard about Jesus, she came into the press. She didn't go in the front. She came in the press. But one of the reason why she came in the press behind is because, remember now, coming from the Old Testament scripture we just read, remember a person who has an issue of blood. It is called unclean. You were not to be seen among the public. That means that you were an outcast. Even if the people saw you coming out and blood was all over you, they would have to tell you to get back in their house. So she knew that she had heard about Jesus. And this woman was persistent. When you got the right touch and the right faith, nothing stops you when you get to Jesus. I've been having this problem for 12 years. I got to get to Jesus. I know that if I step out in this public here, they're going to try to ostracize me, they're going to try to hurt me, they're going to try to make me get back in the house. So I tell you what, I've got to slip up. When you really want Jesus, sometimes you got to slip up on him. See, the devil got to be smart about it. You got to slip up behind the pressure. The Bible says, if you look at it, Brother Jay, the Bible says in the word, look at your word, so you can make sure we stay with the Bible. The Bible says that when they heard Jesus, read on now, the press, he went on behind, and note that he touched his garment. And look at number 28 now, and the Bible says, read on now. I said, no, wait a minute, here it is now. The Bible says she goes up behind the press. And number one, what motivated her? It was a touch of faith. She has a touch of faith that allows her, number one, she knew that she did not want to be disabled for the rest of her life. You got to make a decision that you do not want to be disabled. In other words, you do not want to walk around as if you got low self-esteem. You don't want to walk around as if you cannot achieve. You don't want to walk around like you're set with the whole world. You don't want to walk around as if somebody owes you something. You don't want to walk around because you don't have the right car. You don't want to walk around because you don't have the right job. You don't want to walk around because you don't have the... Look at folks, you can't even walk around. That's discriminating. That's disabling you. You have got to choose. Notice the Bible said the woman, when she found out that she had this problem, look at 12 years was too long for her. So she had a faith mentally that number one, she wasn't supposed to be on the outside. This woman had to press through the crowd. In other words, y'all just tighten up just a little bit. She had to press through the crowd. Notice that the Bible, when it talks about the crowd is suffocating Jesus. Jesus is out there preaching, suffocating the crowd, and she couldn't get through, but the woman was persistent. I know I got to get these 12 years out of my life. I've got to get this, having my children, they all leave me. I've got to stop raising my children, give them back to my own children. I've got to stop walking around like I can't pay my bills. I got to stop coming to church as if I'm sad. I got to stop getting angry with my husband. I got to stop getting angry with my wife. I got to stop getting angry with the preacher. I got to stop getting right. I got to find him. Now you go turn around, Jesus. But the woman, know that that crowd was pressing. But it wasn't no burden for her. When you recognize your situation and you understand your touch, faith, no, already in her heart, she said, if I can just you know, sometimes when you're trying to get to Jesus in a crowd and the other bodies are heavy, the ecumenical writing says that you have to get low. So because somehow you can't get because of the shoulder. So if I can just, I gotta get, I got a problem. I gotta get you. If I can get tough, I can get tough to hear of the God. If I can get tough, sometimes we ain't serious enough. Sometimes we ain't serious enough. See. The crowd sometimes, we think that's too much. Well, I ain't gonna try to fight my way. I just go back home from church. I ain't come to church. That man preached some stuff in there, he made me mad. You ain't serious about your touch. You got a man somehow that's living with you. No, he ain't no good. But you want to let him in and let him have a little thing or two. But you know he ain't no good. But you won't make no decision about it. Your touch ain't right. See, your life can't be fixed when you don't have the issue with some of you, your mind, your thinking in here. You're sitting up here with your attitude, bad thinking, you don't have right touch. You don't come to church and look right funny like some of you folk look sometimes. Bad touch. You want God to do something for you, He can't do for you because number one, you ain't ready to go through this. Somebody who has an issue of 12 years, they know what it means to be hurt and bleed for 12 years. In other words, your problem it ain't hurting you enough yet. You love what you're doing. You love fornicating. You love playing the numbers. You love gambling. You love having affairs out of wedlock. You love talking about people that gossip. You love that man. When you get serious enough, you'll crawl on your bed and get to Jesus just to hear that. Look at the word. Look at the word now. Look, y'all say that. Watch now. Watch. The Bible says, and here's the issue here before we close here. Here's the issue. Look at verses number, go back to verse 28. It says, and she said, what did she say? She said, if I may touch it. Now, Matthew said the hem of his garment. Now, Matthew, Levi, he goes more back to the Old Testament concept of the priest, where the hem of the garment makes a difference. Because the priest wore a different garment, and yet people who were associated in the Levitical priesthood, they had garments that had a hem, and yet they was overlapped. Well, she wasn't just touching. When she came through the crowd, just let me do for a moment now. She came and pressed to the crowd. She didn't say, I want to touch the sleeve of his garment. I want to touch the middle of his clothes. I want to touch his collar. She said, no, all I want is the hem. She specified, I just want his hem. If I can just touch his hem. In other words, by faith, she knows that if I can just do one touch mentally, she knows that she'll be healed. See, what she's trying to say is that God is trying to get us to understand it doesn't take a lot to get your last strength. If I can just touch him. If I can just take one thing, I don't need power. If I can just touch the hem of his garment. You remember the 133rd division of Psalm. You remember the Bible when he used the example of David. It says the brothers need to strive together in unity, like a oil that runs down the beard of Aaron. Note that when you pour the oil to anoint somebody, the oil began to run down the face and run down the beard and then run down on the clothes. Guess what? It's going to be kind of hard to get that oil off now. You know why? Because the oil represents that once it runs down, it sticks close to you, and that's the way we ought to stick close to God in unity. So the closer we get stuck to God, if I can just run down and touch his garment like the oil, when it touches my body, when it touches my clothes, it does not go away. You don't put grease on your clothes. Grease don't go away. When you put grease on garment, go ahead and wash it and tie anything you want. Grease stay with you because that's the unification that God says that somehow if we can just touch, God can give us a lasting, unique stain of spirituality that'll last for eternity. Here's the clothing mechanism of this lesson. I want you to take your hand. In verse number 29. Look at verse number 29. Y'all stay there. I'm coming. Y'all help me out. Look at 29, Brother Jay. Watch what the Bible says. The Bible said when she touched him, the Bible said, watch the Bible. The Bible said the fountain of what now? You can tell already when he said fountain, something was running. But the Bible said the fountain of her blood. Know that is the symbol that when something dries up, God has worked his miracle within. Everybody, watch this here now. Everybody that has the essence of faith to touch Jesus.